From the Nasdaq market site in Times Square, we are live from the market intelligence desk here, and we've got a very special guest with us. Ahead of his appearance on CNBC Fast Money, he had a little bit of time to stop by. You may recognize him from Shark Tank, known as Mr. Wonderful, but one of the great Canadian-American businessmen who has graced us with his presence here.
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. We've got a large generation, the next generation of ambitious leaders who strive to be in a position like yours one day.
Yeah.
What general piece of advice would you have for those who are looking to get their business started, who may have already taken those first steps towards launching their presence out there?
You know, there's a great lesson to be learned from Shark Tank. If you look at all of the hundreds of companies, thousands of companies that pitched, and you look at the ones that actually receive financing, which is the beginning of the journey when you're an entrepreneur, you find some common traits, and I'll give them to you now. I call it the secrets of the Shark Tank, but they're applicable to anything in business. You have to be able to articulate your opportunity in 90 seconds or less. You have to explain what the opportunity is in a very short period of time so investors can get it and say, that sounds interesting. Secondly, you've got to explain why you're the right person or team to execute the business plan. When you get those two together, you start to get some real interest in investors and people to follow you. That's the beginning of the definition of leadership in some ways. You start to feel the room sizzling like an isotope when all of a sudden you realize, great idea with great executional skills. Now this is the third thing that I tell people, and this is the one that I've seen trip up so many entrepreneurs. You have to know your numbers. When you're asked market share, when you're asked margins, when you're asked break-even analysis, when people ask you how many competitors in the market and you don't know those answers, it takes away the credibility of the first two that you were so successful at. And if you don't know your numbers, you deserve to burn in hell in perpetuity, and I'll put you there.
Now, when we think about how you partner with certain people as well, if we could take one step further there, so much of the business is partnership, as you mentioned. You know, you've got to have that skill set as well as the personality that you're going to want to work with at the end of the day.
Sure, it is. It's mentorship also, but you know, if you've been successful as an entrepreneur, you owe the upcoming generation some tips on what to do right instead of wrong. In other words, I've made plenty of mistakes. I like to, my entrepreneurs that I invest in, I try and explain to them what not to do is actually just as important as what to do, because you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. You don't want to kill capital. That's the hardest resource to deal with. You want to keep as much money around as you can when you're growing. There's many things that we mentor, you know, with young entrepreneurs so that they don't make mistakes. That's the key.
Absolutely. Let's bring things a little bit current. You know, we're looking at this environment where there's a potential market correction that's on the horizon, and some of the news swirling around NAFTA as well. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, NAFTA is an interesting situation because it involves obviously Mexico and Canada, and they're two different situations. There's a huge trade imbalance with Mexico, and that's one focus on Wilbur Ross and Donald Trump. But Canada's in a different boat. It doesn't have a trade imbalance. About $2 billion a day goes back and forth across the border. Canada is the largest trading partner of 35 different states, so that's huge. Canadians are responsible for 9.5 million U.S. jobs in that trade. So we've got a really unique situation because it's the most successful border in history. It's unmanned, it's been friendly for hundreds of years, and in a way, we want to keep it that way. But when we talk about protectionism, this could be a big problem for things like softwood lumber. That would make the cost of housing in California go up 30%. Or the new XL pipeline, which is a strategic source of oil for the U.S. You don't want to tax that. You want to get the oil at the best price you can. And also automotive industry. The average chassis goes between Ontario and Michigan 7 times over the border, back and forth. Can't tax that. So the market's a little concerned about how all this is going to get worked out with Wilbur Ross's letter coming next month. And he's going to start negotiating NAFTA with Mexico and Canada. And I think you're going to see a little instability in the market until we figure out how that's going to get worked out.
Certainly. You bring up automotives, and I want to go there in a second, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, how's the political campaign going as well? We know that's active.
I'm very proud to be part of the process, because what I think is important is all around the world, United States, Canada, you see it happening in England, it's happening in France right now. People are tired of the old politicians. They want people and leaders with executional excellence that's actually been able to set goals and decide how to get there and bring in a team to do it. And that's the tonality of the campaign I'm waging right now. I'm the only non-politician in the whole mix, so we'll see how that works out. We decide on May 27th, so it's not far away. But the outcome, like everything else, you just don't know. Who trusts polls or journalists anymore?
Absolutely. Well, hopefully I'm not the traditional journalist, but hopefully I'm a little bit trustworthy here today. Lastly, just before we wrap, you bring up automotives a moment ago. Tesla, one of the big news items from today, being dubbed as one of the new big three. So looking at the auto industry, how do you think Tesla's presence in there has really impacted the future of this industry going forward?
Well, I think Elon Musk is a rock star as an entrepreneur doing all the things he does, but he also promised him production increases, and he got there.
Yeah.
But, there's the product, the Tesla product, and then there's the Tesla stock. These are two different situations. The stock, in fact, is a cult stock trading at a crazy PE. Now, I don't own it, and I wouldn't own it, because if the bigger Tesla gets, the more it looks like a real car company, and that could cause gravity to come to its price-earnings ratio, and I don't know when and if that happens. The product is spectacular. My son keeps barking at me to buy one, and I'm looking at the new gull-winged SUV.
Oh, with Falcon wings.
The
yes.
Falcon wings.
Yeah,
I think it's a beautiful car. Probably going to buy one, but the stock, no. I don't buy things trading at astronomical PEs, because anytime there's a hiccup, you get slaughtered in the market.
But you bring up a very good point in that your son is now going to you saying, we need to get this car, Dad, and it speaks volumes to their marketing approach.
Oh yeah, it really, the company, they've done it's a cult. There's a whole generation, like my son who's 20 years old, that believes that's the only car he ever wants to own. And for a company to achieve that in such a short period of time, that is remarkable. You got to remember, the automotive company's been around for a long time. Tesla came out of the blue, everybody discounted it, and they brought themselves forward in a remarkable way. But that doesn't mean the stock is okay. It means the product is great.
Right, 100%. Kevin, great to have you here today.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great time on CNBC a little bit later. And thank you all for watching live on Facebook. Stay tuned for more coming from the Nasdaq market site throughout the rest of the week.